Hello, one and all, and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Pattinson, and as always, I'm joined by Ethan Daffy. How are you, mates?
I'm good, mate. Good. Always good, mate, when we're talking about the baggers, mate. Exciting.
Always good, always good. But how about the weather? Yesterday it was bloody 33 degrees and bloody sunny, and now it's bloody 10 degrees and raining.
I know. It's well, there was like just before December, it was just like pissing down for a couple of weeks there, and I was getting sick of it. And the sun came out, thought it was all blue skies for the next 3 months, and now it's fucking pissing down again. So I don't know what to do,
Mate, because I'll be bloody jumper and trackies again. Yesterday I was in bloody shirt and shorts, but anyway. Enough about Melbourne's weather because you know it's very unpredictable. But we'll move on to obviously the players that we brought in the draft. The draft happened about a week ago, I think, and we obviously brought in 4 players. We probably only was predicted to really use 3 of the picks, but we obviously we got up a little bit in the order to get another player. But obviously we'll get into the thick of things. Obviously with our first round pick, Oliver Hollands. Daffy boy, take us through how stoked are you with this pick? It was the predicted pick that we were going to player that we were going to pick up, and I think I'm absolutely stoked. But what's your thoughts on it, Daff?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with it. Obviously, in our draft preview, we talked about him a fair bit for the chunk of it. Just knowing that he's probably going to be in that pick 11 range, and we got it done, which is good. There was really no stress that first night of draft, was it? A lot of players went to clubs they were expected to go to. So, yeah, for me, I'm just happy with it. I think he probably adds to that wing midfield depth on our list, and yeah, it honestly looks the goods. Two-way runner. Good endurance, decision making, gets a fair bit of the ball. His averages at Tat Cup level were big, and his versatility is good. It's just a matter of obviously he's a light boy. He's 71 kilos, which obviously that a couple pre-seasons he'll get bigger, and obviously over the next few months with strength and conditioning coaches like Andrew Russell, I'm sure they'll get him looking buff come round 1. But yeah, so back to you, Pato. What are your thoughts? Because I think he really ticks a lot of boxes that we didn't have.
Yeah, 100%. As you touched on there, I think it's just the players that we had to it was a player that we had to bring in to the club. And as you said about the whole strength, and yes, he's quite light, but you look at the best wingers in the game, like you look at like an Ed Langdon, he's not a heavy boy. He's quite lean, and it's because he needs to be like that. So if you really want to have Hollands as that genuine winger, because I don't reckon he's really a chance to get into our inside midfield, actual group, because we've got the guys like Cripps, Chera, Hewitt, all these guys, Walshy as well to add on. So I think what the club has to actually have to try and do with him is just say, we need to try and get you as a winger. And I think his probably strength is his two-way running. And that's very Ed Langdon-like. So I think we probably have to try and look at him as we need to try and keep his body shape the same, just because obviously he's done so well to get pick 11. So I think what he's done so far, I think it's going to be good to bring him in. But so obviously we'll move on to our next player. This is one of the players that we kind of move up in the draft to actually get this player. It's someone that's kind of come out of nowhere. I know that we didn't really speak about it during the last episode. We were kind of focusing on a few other players with a quite interesting last names, Daffy boy. But obviously we're talking about Lachlan Cowan. Wow, he looks the goods, doesn't he? I think we were speaking about him when we actually drafted him and what he's kind of done in his draft here, and he looks the goods, doesn't he? But obviously, Daffy boy, take us through. Lachlan Cowan, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty happy with him. I was reading into him actually, not knowing that we were going to be interested or get him a few weeks back. Obviously, he won the NAB League's Morris Medal, which is the best player in the NAB League, and picking him up at pick 30 is not too bad. He's obviously a medium defender. He's got good size about him. He's 187, 81 kilos for an 18. He just turned 18 last week, I think. He was Tassie's skipper last year, and And for mine, I think this could be an absolute steal. I think, I think this has really broken open our draft a little bit because us trading up, we weren't really expected to get 30, and we might use that on Binns instead. But Cowan was available, and obviously Nick Austin and the team thought, geez, we've got to get him. He's on the board. So he looks the goods. By seeing him in training photos the last few days, he looks like he's genuinely, his body is ready for round one. And
Yeah.
I'll just make a call right now. He will be playing round one. He might push a dock up the field onto the wing or something like that into the mid. Something that you got to change things sometimes with teams, because I think if you stay complacent as a best 22, teams start to find you out a little bit. But you, Pato, what are your thoughts on the Cowan pick?
I mean, we kind of spoke about it. We didn't know much about him. I'm not too sure about you, Daffy boy. I think you're a little bit more over it than I am. But I think with me, like, I know that I've seen some highlights before he was actually drafted, as we all do. We kind of see what players are kind of on the board and kind of just see how they all are. But Cowan was one of the guys I'm just like, yeah, he looks solid. But if he was a winner of the NAB League Best and Fairest, why didn't he go higher? Like, that is an absolute, like, that's an awesome award to get. And if we're getting him at this pick, also for what he's kind of done this year, but also the goods that he's actually brought into the club. Like, as you said there, he's ready to play round one. He's ready to play round one now. He's ready to play AFL now, like, easily. So, as you said, I think he's probably a chance to play round one. I don't know, just because, I mean, we spoke about, because we went to the training through the week, the open training, and Sam Doherty was training with the midfield group. So that, to me, that kind of looks like he's going to maybe be on that wing, if not in the middle, which I like. I think I've always liked Sam Doherty more in the midfield and kicking it into the forwards rather than off the halfback and kicking it to the next player. I think I like Sam Doherty being in the middle. So that kind of opens up, if Doherty moves up the field, that opens up a spot in the back line, and maybe Cowan is that player. So, as you said there, I think it was great to actually get him in. Obviously, the strengths there was just there. I think the one that kind of, I think what probably leads out to me the most is leadership. Like, we don't have it, like, not often now you have young leaders, and he has leadership qualities everywhere. Like, even when he walked into the club in, like, photos and stuff, he just looks like a genuine leader. And you don't get that often. Like, I think probably one of the players that we've probably brought in is Sam Walsh, and that's probably the only player that has that leadership quality. Jacob Wiedering as well. But other than that, Cowan's probably that next player that is probably a genuine leader. And I mean, obviously, he's going to be, he has a lot of players in front of him that are like leadership qualities because they have Sam Doherty, or that's all those players. But as you said there, I think this is a genuine draft steal. Genuine.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And just quickly, I think with Cowan being that medium defender, 187, very similar to a kind of Nick Newman and stuff, I think that's going to put pressure. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Nick Newman to keep his spot, just in terms of, I'm not saying I don't want Nick Newman in the best 22, but if Nick Newman's getting pressure on him, that's a good sign, because I think, he's a consistent player, Nick Newman. I think he's fantastic, but I feel like Cowan, the way he plays off halfback, maybe might provide something different, something more exciting, or, you know what I mean? Like, obviously Newman, we know what we're going to get out of him every single week. Good, consistent footy, but we don't know whether Cowan, he might bring, he might add something to our, back six in a different way than we've seen before. So it's going to be exciting, mate.
Yeah. And my opinion on that is, I think, yes, like, of course he has that X factor sort of look about him, but that's why you kind of have Sardi and Williams there. So that's why if Cowan comes into this lineup with Sard, Williams, and Cowan, and obviously bringing in Cowan as well, that's the only thing, because as you just said then, we know what Nick Newman's going to provide. We know that what he's going to bring to the lineup. We know that what Lewis Young and Wiedering's going to bring. We know what Marchie might bring if he's in that best 22 side. So I'm saying, I mean, you think he's playing round one? I don't think he's playing round one if we don't have any injuries. That's just my opinion, because as we always speak about, perfect example is Harry Mackay. get him into the VFL, started getting him into and earn his stripes to actually get into this round one side. But also, pre-season, it's a brand new ball game. So this is when everyone restarts, everyone's on the same level. If Lachie Cowan actually steps up and Michael Voss says, shit, this guy's got the goods, he's playing round one. So that's what all these draftees who come in, they don't want to be intimidated by these by these older senior players who are these stars. They need to say, well, I'm on the same level as them. Like everyone's playing for a round one spot. So I think it's really good that we brought him in, but I think it's a player that I think is a generation sort of player. He's not a player for round one, but I think Hollands is. I think Hollands is that player that is pushing out. Because now that we got Akers, O'Brien, Cottrell, and Hollands is probably that next wing position. Also Doherty as well. So there's so many players, Duffy boy. But obviously we'll move on to our next player that we brought in. This is one of the players that I always thought we were probably interested in. I know that we didn't really speak about it on the last episode, but I'm pretty stoked that we got this player in. This is one of the guys that I actually was saying a bit. I'm like, Christ, he looks good. He looks good. So obviously a forward wing is Jaxon Binns. What a last name. Once again, there's some interesting last names, Daffy boy. But what's your thoughts on Jaxon Binns, Daff?
Very happy, mate. Honestly, I think this is another guy that can push out of O'Brien, can push out of Cottrell, because I think he's been heavily talked about within the Carlton podcast in the last week or so, based on his training, and he looks the goods. I think he's a genuine winger. I think obviously he played a kind of high half forward role for Dandenong Stingrays. He obviously played on the wing as well, but for me, I think this is huge because it just adds to that wing stock again. And I think this is a guy who can. I'm not counting him out to see him not a round one debut, but an early season. Come in, because I think he can. I think he's good enough. Obviously, depending on, like you said, pre-season it's a whole new ball game. Some blokes might develop better than others or work well with the whole Voss game plan, but for me, I think this guy can definitely, in the first half of the season, make a debut. And it's just his endurance, similar to Hollands. I think in the AFL these days, you see these wingers that just run all day. And I think with the Binns, I think he's very similar to an Akers, where they're both, their work rate's fantastic, defensively and offensively. So there's nothing much you can ask more about for a winger. Is running both ways, isn't it? So, what are your thoughts, Pato? Because I think Binnsy could be the goods.
Yeah. As you said there, I think because what probably we needed maybe 5 years ago is these players were probably a genuine chance to play round one, if not a definite chance to play round one, because we kind of just needed those young stars to really lead us forward. But also what you're seeing by these best teams nowadays is just they're getting these young players in quite young, quite early in the season, but they're actually providing the goods straight away. It's not like they're kind of lost out there. It's just under the system. And that's what we kind of saw last year with Jesse Motlop. I thought that there's no chance Jesse Motlop's going to play probably for the whole season. I said that, I'm like, there's no way he's going to play the whole season. And in his round one game, I think his first game was against Giants, and even just that X factor was just like, oh my God, it's just good. It's what we need, because if they gel well within the team, that's what you needed. And I just said, then I don't think Binns will probably be that round one. I don't think he'll get that debut in round one, but who knows, in 3 or 4 weeks' time after that round one game, if he provides in the VFL and someone goes injured or someone's not really up to the standard in the AFL side, Binns is knocking on the door. So he could be that next player coming in. And you need those young players as well to kind of lead you forward as well as a team, because you can't really just have the old players all the time. Yes, Geelong had a lot of older players and they won the premiership, but also they had younger players like an SDK or like a Grind Myers. Yes, he's getting on in age, but he's still got that X factor sort of young sort of style. So as I said then, I think it's good that we're bringing in some younger players, and even if they don't play the first year, I think it's good because they can always transition into the VFL. But obviously the last player is a player that we kind of I know that I was crying out for a key forward. I was crying out for a key forward in this draft.
Yep.
And I'm so stoked that his name's Harry. So obviously he's Harry Lemmey. Is that the correct pronunciation? Lemmey?
Lemmey. Yep.
Lemmey. Oh, Lemmey. I thought it was Lemmey, Daffy boy. No, there's no Leeme. But so Lemmey, so Harry Lemmey. Obviously he's the key forward. I don't think he'll play for a couple of years, but I think this is a perfect chance for him to transition into the VFL. I know I'm really stoked about it. I think this is a play that we just needed to get in. But Daffy boy, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, with him they were stoked. I watched the video of the inside the draft, like in the draft room with the Nick Oster and that, who he was mic'd up, and you could listen to what he was saying during the draft. And they were really praying that he got to that pick. I think it was pick 47 in the end, but 202 centimeters, 95 kilos at 18 years old, man. Like, before the start of the year, he was rated as top 5 pick. He could have been a potential top 1 pick this year. He struggled. He didn't struggle, but he just didn't, get to that level he played at in 2021, which is unfortunate for him. But at a club like Carlton, right now, he can really, turn those guys around real quickly. It doesn't have to be quickly because we've got the players there. So he's played across all 3 grades for West Adelaide and the Samples. So under 18s, reserves, and obviously senior level, which is fantastic. Good experience for a young fella to play at a very, very good level in the Sample. Like I said before, I think he's just, had not a struggling year, but not as good as he had in 2021, which has obviously made him go down in the draft. But geez, at 202 centimeters, he can play both ends of the ground. He's played a bit of defence for West Adelaide and obviously South Australia in the Australian Championships. But for you, Pato, back to you. What are your thoughts? Because honestly, you look at his strengths: forward craft, kicking, leading patterns, overhead marking. Geez, if he can get clicking under, Ash Hansen as the forward coach and his new teammates in Harry and Charlie, I think he could really be a star.
Yeah, spot on. And it's very Harry Mackay-like. Very, very Harry Mackay-like. So is he a lefty or a righty?
I think he's a righty. I think
I don't know why, but I had this vision that he was a lefty. But anyway, I think it's just more just the Harry getting to my brain, Harry Mackay. But I mean, as you said, we don't need him right now, but it's more the generation sort of player that we need in a couple of years. And like forward craft, kicking, leading patterns, overhead marking, that is the key forward that you want in your team. Like, so many of these next generation forwards that's exactly what they bring. That's what their attributes are. That's exactly what they bring to this team, to any team in the AFL. But if he is playing in the VFL and he absolutely tears the door down, we might be able to work with maybe 3 forwards. Because if Tom DeConning isn't really performing in that forward ruck role, he's knocking down the door because he's 202 centimeters. Like, it's bloody tall, because I think Harry White is 203 or something, 204. I think.
Yeah, around there. Yeah, similar.
Yeah, so he's around that height, and Harry Mackay can play ruck. I mean, I don't want him playing ruck, but Harry Lemmey might actually be that player to come in and play that forward ruck role, because we saw it at the start of the year. TDK and Pitnet, it worked, but it didn't work well enough. And as soon as TDK was kind of dropped into the VFL and Pitnet was that number 1 ruck and then kind of transitioned the two together, Harry Lemmey might be that guy who is that key forward, obviously, but he might work on his ruck craft, which might obviously will help him transition into this AFL side, because all these players that we get in, yes, they have a genuine position, but it's up to the preseason and the coaches to see, all right, well, how do we get you into this AFL side? How do we get you into this side to actually perform? Because all these players, they have their own position on the field, but we don't know where they are going to be when they actually come into the AFL side. So, as you said, then Duffy boy, I think all 4 picks then so exciting, because it's just exactly what we needed. Because Harry Lemmey is also that guy that can also transition down back, and he looks so good down back as well. Like, it's not like he looks lost. He looks so good. So it's very Lewis Young-like as well, because I know when Lewis Young was first getting drafted, I know he was also that kind of key back and also that key forward, that transition forward as well. So I think it's absolutely fantastic how he picked up all 4 players. And they all look the goods. Like, it's not like anyone is just like a little bit iffy. I think they all look good. But once again, the draft here this year was pretty high standard, wasn't it? Like, I think a lot of the players that were picked up, it just shows how much AFL is evolving now. Because just each year that just the draft, and even next year, like they're already talking about next year being the super draft. Like the players next year look absolutely fantastic. So I don't know if we are going to maybe try and look at getting another player next year through bids and stuff, but I'm bloody excited, Duff. But any more to add on for the players?
Yeah, just with Lemmey, I think he just adds to that key stock. I think we lacked just that kind of that middle area when we were versing Freo and Richmond and that, where we were having, we had to bring in Durden, who in the mid-season draft, the next fucking week he's playing. So, you know what I mean? I just think our key stocks with a Lemmey as a real backup stock for any position is good. I think he will be a forward. And for me, it's no risk. If he doesn't turn out good, he doesn't turn out good. He's a pick 47. So, it's no risk, but it could be a massive reward if it really pulls through. And I think just got a little thing about it. I think he will. I think he will turn out good. But we'll obviously have to see how he goes in the VFL. But yeah, back to you, Pato.
Yeah, absolutely spot on there, Ducky boys. So that's obviously the players that we'll touch on for the draft. Obviously we'll touch on some players that we re-rookied. The only player that we really re-rookied, it was a little bit confusing if he was re-signed, Duffy boy. I know other of the Carlton supporters were saying, "Oh no, he's re-signed, but he's not." Why is Ed Curnow not on the list? Why is he not on the list? But of course, we're talking about Edward Curnow. He's on a 1-year deal, so obviously he's playing in 2023. I think it's good. I genuinely reckon this is going to be his last year, unfortunately. Let's hope that he might get that. I do want him playing in the AFL. That's just me. I want him playing in the AFL just because I like that fairy tale sort of finish. And maybe if we do get into finals and go quite far, who knows? Ed Curnow he's been around some of the dark times in the club. So if he can get that kind of the light at the end of the tunnel sort of feeling, I think that's going to be good. But what's your thoughts, Daffy boy, on the 1-year deal for Ed Curnow?
I think it's really, I think it's good. I think it's very unselfish of him as well. He's not asking for much. He's on the rookie list, so I think it's a part of your salary cap. That's, I don't know. There's some rule about it, but you're getting less money, obviously, being a rookie. But yeah, for me, like you said, I think he plays over 7 games this year. Next year, sorry. I think for some reason, I feel like he's going to come in at some stages during the year. I think, last year, well, this year in a sense, sorry. I think our inside game is really good, and that I think it really benefits a player like Ed Curnow to be around guys like George Hewitt and players like those inside kind of players, and he provides something different every time. He's a good runner. He's a clearance beast. So if a George Hewitt can't get up for a round one, I'll back Ed Curnow in any day of the week. So. Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's like you said, Ed's a legend. You can't not like Ed. Yeah. He's that funny face around the grounds of the MCG, always providing a laugh, doing some stupid celebrations. But for me, I just want to see him playing with his brother. Just a few games with his brother, and just be a little bit of a fairy tale, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. So let's hope all the best for Ed Curnow. I mean, as you said there, I just don't know if there is a genuine spot for him. And I think if someone goes down or someone's not performing, I think that's probably that opportunity that he gets. I think he will get that opportunity. I think he's ahead of a Paddy Dow. That's just my opinion. I know that there will be some people who disagree, but that's just my opinion. So I think Ed Curnow is probably that next midfielder in line who's playing in the VFL. I think he's that next mid in line. And I think it's the play that we kind of needed during the year. We needed that toughness. And I don't think he played a single game, did he? He didn't play a single game.
Well, he would have 100% played the last month if he wasn't injured.
Because
when Kennedy and Hewitt went down and Walsh last round, he could have played the Collingwood and Melbourne games, and it could have been a different story. But yeah, he's just got to stay fit, Ed, and I think he will get a few games.
Yeah, spot on. Obviously, we'll move on now to the round 1 game. Of course, it's locked in. Of course, all the people who are the traditionalists, they want their round 1 game back, the traditional sort of look. Richmond v Carlton, it's back. First game of the season is Richmond v Carlton. Don't know if it's a home game or not. I think it will be their home game just because we had the home game last year. But Richmond versus Carlton, round 1. Duffy boy, what's your thoughts?
It gets me. I don't know. It's tough sometimes. You can't predict it, but I just think it's going to be a ripper. I think it's going to be one of the better ones for the last 10 or so years. I think, every time we verse them, it's either us being much better than them or them being much better than us. I think, during the 2000s, that back end with Fev and Juddy, we used to always smash them. And then that turned. They started smashing us for 8 years straight or whatever. And then now we've kind of broken that kind of hoodoo. And now it's on. And I think they've freshened up their team a bit too with the likes of Taranto and Hopper coming in, and still think our midfield's better, but I think it'll be a real challenge. I think with Bolton, it's not going to be easy. It is not going to be easy at all. But geez, if we can get a win against them, their list is looking pretty good. So if we can get a win against them early, that will really set us up for a good start to the year like this year.
Absolutely massive. And obviously the last thing that we'll touch on is, of course, the Good Friday match against North Melbourne. Obviously, Western Bulldogs have been taken off that game. A bit interesting about that. I think they want to try and keep North Melbourne as that franchise sort of team to play in that game. I don't mind really. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't know if I've ever been really interested in it. So I don't mind getting 100,000 at the Marvel Stadium, even though it doesn't even fit 100,000. But anyway, I reckon 99.974% of it will be Carlton supporters. So, David Boy, what's your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not going to talk about the result of the game, but it's going to be good to because usually Good Friday, it's always a good cause, and but there's nothing much on a Good Friday. Usually it's just that game, and then you go, geez, Bulldogs North, and I reckon the average scoreline has been Bulldogs by about 90. So, no, they're going to be exciting next year. North, they've got some good youngsters, but it'll be good to see the Baggers fill up the Marvel Stadium on a Good Friday.
100%, Duffy boy. Anything else you want to touch on, mate?
No, mate. I hope we'll probably do an episode just before Chrissy, I'd imagine. But if not, we'll wish you all the best in the holidays, everyone watching, and this year especially with growing on Instagrams and growing on Spotify's and YouTube's and getting messages from people and comments. So it's good to see, and we just love what we do. So thank you, guys.
Absolutely spot on, Duffy boy. Couldn't have said any better myself. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to share the podcast. I know that we're still trying to build as a podcast, but really excited for this year, 2023 season with the Carlton Football Club. I think it's going to be really exciting. But as always, Duffy boy, up the Baggers.